I stood in the shadows of my kitchen, peering through the half-drawn blinds as my wife, Elena, pulled into the driveway in her sleek black Mercedes, the one I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. She wasn't alone. In the passenger seat sat her lover, Alex, the young fitness trainer from the gym where she spent extra hours toning up. And tumbling out of the back were Alex's sister and best friend, laughing like they'd just won the lottery. Elena had returned from her girls' trip to the Bahamas with her secret boyfriend and his entourage, all of them tanned and glowing from 2 weeks of luxury yachts, private beaches, and endless cocktails charged to accounts she thought were still hers to plunder. My heart twisted like a knife in my chest as I watched Elena guide Alex up the steps to our front door, her hand slipping into his back pocket with the intimacy of someone who'd already claimed my place in her life. Alex's sister, Mia, eyed the house with greedy curiosity, her phone already out snapping photos of the exterior like she was scouting for a flip. And his best friend, Carlos, lugged in designer bags stuffed with souvenirs from their escapade, smirking as if he knew the punchline to a joke I wasn't in on. What Elena didn't know, as she twisted her key into the lock of what she still called our home, was that I'd spent every agonizing day of their sun-soaked fling dismantling our life brick by brick. Selling off assets, freezing accounts, rerouting funds into ironclad trusts and offshore havens she'd never trace. The mansion she was strutting into? Sold 3 weeks ago, with closing in 48 hours. The tech startup I'd poured my soul into? Liquidated, assets distributed to silent partners. The vacation home in the Bahamas they'd just left? Flipped to a quick buyer for cash. Every stock, every bond, every luxury item, gone, protected, untouchable. I clutched the slim black binder in my hands, filled with every legal document, every email trail, every screenshot that proved my moves were airtight. My father had taught me that always have the paperwork ready, son. He'd been a corporate lawyer, the kind who crushed boardrooms without raising his voice. Now, as Elena flung open the door and ushered her new family inside, their laughter echoing off the marble floors I'd installed myself, I felt a cold calm settle over me. No more tears. Those had dried up after the first night I discovered her affair, hacking into her iCloud on a whim and finding photos that shattered 15 years of marriage. Elena pecked me on the cheek like an afterthought, her lips tasting of salt and sunscreen. Hey babe, we're home. Missed you. Alex poured drinks from my whiskey collection without a word, clinking glasses with Mia and Carlos. Mia plopped down on my leather sectional, kicking off her sandals and propping her feet up like she owned the place. Carlos spread out a folder on the coffee table, divorce papers, asset splits, everything prepped to hand me the short end of the stick. But 15 years of being the reliable husband, the one who worked 80-hour weeks while she found herself through yoga retreats and spa days, had taught me patience. The overlooked man in the relationship is often the one with the sharpest eyes. My hands didn't shake as I watched Elena pop a bottle of Dom Perignon, our wedding vintage, no less, and toast to fresh starts with her lover and his crew in my living room. Their assumptions were so rock-solid they hadn't noticed the subtle changes. The packed boxes tucked in the alcove, the missing family portraits from the walls, the echo of emptiness where our life used to be full. Before we dive deeper into this tale of betrayal and comeback, hit that like button if you're hooked, and subscribe for more stories that hit right in the feels. Drop a comment below. Where are you tuning in from? USA, India, UK, or somewhere else? Let me know your spot on the map. And stick around because those 4 words I uttered next flipped the script entirely. The fizz of champagne bubbles filled the air, mixing with the tropical perfume still clinging to their clothes. Elena raised her glass high, her diamond bracelet, my gift from last Christmas, catching the light. To new chapters, new loves, and leaving the past behind. Her arm looped around Alex's waist, pulling him close in a pose that screamed Instagram-worthy couple goals. Alex grinned, his gym-honed muscles flexing under his tight shirt, the scent of his overpriced body spray overpowering the room where my coffee mornings used to bring peace. Mia leaned back in my armchair, the one my grandfather had passed down, scrolling through her phone and muttering about how this place has potential for renovations. She snapped a pic of the crystal vase on the mantel, the one Elena and I had bought on our honeymoon in Venice. The nerve of it burned in my gut, this stranger appraising my heirlooms like garage sale finds. Carlos, ever the practical one, arranged his papers with precision. Prenup amendments, property deeds, bank transfer forms, all neatly tabbed and ready for my signature. He'd even brought a notary app on his tablet, boasting about how efficient this would be. No mess, no fuss, he said with a wink. Elena finally turned to me, her eyes softening in that fake sympathetic way she'd mastered over the years. Sweetie, come join us. We need to chat about adjustments. She patted the spot next to her on the couch, like I was a kid being coaxed into bedtime. 15 years of building a life together, and she was treating me like an inconvenient guest. I stayed rooted by the window, watching the sunset paint the lawn I'd mowed every weekend. Adjustments? I echoed, my voice steady. Alex set his glass down on the antique side table, scratching it, no doubt, and stepped up beside Elena, forming their united wall. Look, man, he started, dropping the mister like we were buddies. This isn't easy for anyone. But Elena and we've been building something real. Planning for months. It's time to make it official. Months. The word landed like a punch. Months of her sneaking off to client meetings that were really hotel romps. Months of me sensing the distance, but chalking it up to stress. Months while I was closing deals for our company, oblivious to her plotting my exit. Mia chimed in from the armchair, her tone all honeyed concern. Honey, I get it. Change sucks. But fighting this? It'll just drag everyone down. Elena's found her happiness with my brother. Sign these, and you can start fresh too. Reinvent yourself. Women do it all the time, why not you? The gaslighting was pro-level. Frame robbing me blind as a favor. Turn my resistance into proof I'm the bitter one. Carlos uncapped a fancy pen, sliding it toward the signature line. Simple as that. Initial here, sign there. 10 minutes, done. Fair split. Fair. That word ignited something deep. I thought back to how we met, me, a budding software engineer at a Silicon Valley startup. Her marketing was with big dreams. Our first date, coffee shop brainstorming sessions where she dazzled me with ideas for my app that turned it into a multi-million-dollar platform. We built Rivera tech together. I coded the core, she sold the vision. But over time, she took the spotlight, the CEO title, while I faded to CTO, the behind-the-scenes guy. I never complained. Love meant sacrifice, right? As long as we were a team. But now, staring at the photo of our son, Liam, on the mantle, wait, no, I'd packed it last week after finding her Bahamas tickets booked under couples getaway. The texts on her phone, her and Alex scheming asset grabs, Mia advising on quick divorces, Carlos prepping docs to siphon half the company. They'd treated our marriage like a business merger gone sour, planning the dissolution with checklists and timelines. I pulled away from the window, my binder feeling like a shield. The garden outside, roses I'd planted for her birthday, the oak tree where Liam learned to climb, would soon belong to the new buyers, a family from Seattle who'd gushed over it during the virtual tour. They'd nurture it, not these intruders. Mr. Rivera, Carlos pressed, impatience creeping in. We can't stay all night. Other plans tomorrow. Like eviscerating my life was a pit stop. I set the binder down deliberately, the leather creaking under my fingers. It had been my dad's, filled with his old case files. I opened it, extracting a crisp document from the California Secretary of State. The room hushed. I held it up, letting the words sink in. The house isn't yours anymore. The silence crashed like thunder. Elena's glass slipped, spilling champagne on the rug. Alex's smirk vanished. Mia sat up straight. Carlos froze mid-type on his phone. What the hell do you mean? Elena demanded, her voice cracking for the first time. I laid out the deed transfer. This was my inheritance from Dad. Bought in 2005, before we met. Your name was never on it. I sold it last month. New owners close in 2 days. Elena's face paled, the tan turning sallow. You can't. We live here. Not anymore, I said, pulling more papers. Rivera Tech? Dissolved 2 weeks ago. Clients migrated, assets sold off. Domain transferred. Even the patents, reassigned to a trust for Liam. Alex grabbed a sheet, scanning frantically. This is fraud. You need board approval. Check the bylaws, I replied coolly. As founder and majority holder, I can dissolve for irreconcilable partnership breach. You signed off years ago, Elena, too busy with photo shoots to read the fine print. The irony stung her. She'd trusted me with the boring stuff while she networked. Mia jumped in. What about investments? Retirement? You can't liquidate without penalties. True, I nodded. So I funneled them into Liam's education trust. Untouchable for decades. Carlos was dialing a contact, probably a lawyer buddy. But I knew I'd consulted top firms. All legal. The Bahamas villa? Alex blurted, desperation rising. Sold 10 days ago. Cash buyer. Your stuff there? Shipped to storage, bills on you. Elena's eyes welled. Why? Just because I found love. No, I said, turning to Mia. Because your sister here texted about using my credit for family upgrades. This wasn't love, it was a grift. Bahamas wasn't romance, it was recon for asset flips. The mask slipped. Mia snarled. So? Opportunity knocked. Elena was wasting time with a workaholic like you. I smiled faintly. Smart play. But Dad taught me, no more than your enemy. One more doc, a postnup from 8 years back after her first slip with a colleague. She'd begged forgiveness, signed in tears, forfeiting claims on infidelity proof. My lawyer, Javier, stepped from the hall. All compliant. Challenge it? We've got texts, emails, conspiracy charges await. They deflated. Elena whispered, Liam, what about him? He knows, I said. Saw your posts. Wish you were here to Alex while he waited for Mom's call. That broke her. They gathered scraps, her clothes, his trinkets, and filed out, defeated. The door shut. Peace. Javier clapped my shoulder. You good? I nodded. But he knew my past, the affair I'd had early on, the guilt that made me overforgive. Like what she did to me. Karma? No, he said. Redemption's owning your mistakes and not letting them chain you. Through the window, their car vanished. 48 hours, new life here. My phone buzzed. Liam. Dad proud. Come visit college. Start fresh. Tears came relief. I'd lost it all to save myself. Worth every penny. The door had barely clicked shut behind them when the weight of the silence hit me like a wave. Not the heavy, suffocating kind, I'd lived with that for years, but a clean, empty quiet that felt like breathing for the first time in forever. The house still smelled faintly of Elena's perfume mixed with Alex's cologne and the spilled champagne drying on the rug. My rug. My house. For another 48 hours, at least. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer where I kept the good scotch, the bottle I'd bought the day Rivera Tech hit its first $10 million valuation, and poured 3 fingers into one of the remaining crystal tumblers that hadn't been packed yet. I sat at the island, staring at the binder still open on the counter. Every page in there was a piece of armor I'd forged in secret while Elena was posting sun-kissed selfies with captions like, living my best life sparkles. My phone buzzed. Liam. Dad. You okay? Mom just called me screaming. Said you stole everything and ruined her life. I told her she ruined yours first. She hung up. I typed back, I'm okay, kid. Better than okay. Love you. Talk tomorrow. Love you more. Call me when you're ready. I'm here. I set the phone face down and let out a long breath. That text from my son was worth more than every liquidated share combined. But freedom doesn't come without ghosts. Around 2 a.m. I still hadn't slept. I wandered through the house like a stranger in my own life, opening closets, drawers, rooms I hadn't really entered in months because I was always working late or traveling for meetings. In the master bedroom closet, her side mostly empty now, I found the box she thought I'd never look in. Old letters. Photos. A hotel key card from the Four Seasons in Maui dated 3 years ago, when she told me she was at a marketing conference in San Diego. A USB drive labeled personal. I plugged it into my old laptop, the one I hadn't sold yet because it had my early code on it. Hundreds of photos. Not just Alex. Before him there was Ryan from sales. Before Ryan, Marco the photographer she hired for the company rebrand. Years of them. Smiling, touching, laughing in places I'd paid for. And voice notes, her whispering to lovers about how he's so busy he'll never notice, how once the company sells we can start fresh, how I deserve someone who actually sees me. I should have felt rage. Instead I felt tired. The same tired I'd felt at 28 when I caught her the first time, and she cried and promised it would never happen again. I forgave her because I loved her. Because I'd cheated once too early on, stupidly, with a colleague during a conference in Singapore. Guilt had chained me to forgiveness ever since. I spent 15 years trying to balance the scales, being the perfect husband, the invisible backbone, so she'd never have reason to leave. But she left anyway. Not physically at first, just emotionally, inch by inch, until the space between us was bigger than the house we shared. I should have felt rage. Instead I felt tired. The same tired I'd felt at 28 when I caught her the first time, and she cried and promised it would never happen again. I forgave her because I loved her. Because I'd cheated once too early on, stupidly, with a colleague during a conference in Singapore. Guilt had chained me to forgiveness ever since. I spent 15 years trying to balance the scales, being the perfect husband, the invisible backbone, so she'd never have reason to leave. But she left anyway. Not physically at first, just emotionally, inch by inch, until the space between us was bigger than the house we shared. I deleted the folder. Not out of spite. Out of release. Those images weren't evidence anymore. Javier already had everything he needed. I just didn't want them living in my head rent-free. Dawn came. I made coffee in the almost empty kitchen using the last of the beans I'd bought in Colombia on our anniversary trip 2 years back, the one where she spent most nights texting while I stared at the ocean alone. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. Mr. Rivera? This is Priya from the escrow company. Just confirming, closing on the house is still set for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Funds will wire directly to the trust account as instructed. Any last-minute changes? No changes, I said. Everything's exactly as planned. Great. The buyers are very excited. The wife keeps talking about the rose garden. I smiled despite myself. Tell her to deadhead the roses in June. And water the oak deeply once a week in summer. Will do. Have a good day, sir. I hung up and walked outside for the first time since they left. The morning light was soft on the garden. The Japanese maple my father helped me plant when Liam was 3 was turning scarlet at the edges early this year, like it knew change was coming. I knelt, pulled a few weeds that had crept in while I was too distracted to notice, and whispered to the tree like my dad used to whisper to his roses, "You'll be okay here. They'll love you." My phone buzzed again. Elena this time. Voice message. 3 minutes long. I let it play while I sat on the stone bench. Her voice was raw, mascara ruined, half sobbing, half furious. How could you do this to me? After everything? I gave you 15 years. I built the brand. You were just the guy in the basement writing code. And now you take it all? You think you're some hero? You're pathetic. You always were. That's why I needed someone else. Someone who actually makes me feel alive. Pause. Sniffle. I'm not giving up. My lawyer says we can fight the postnup. Says you coerced me into signing it. Says the dissolution was fraudulent. You'll be in court for years. You'll lose anyway. And when you do, I'll make sure Liam sees what kind of man his father really is. Another pause. Her voice dropped. I still love you, you know. We could fix this. Just give me half. Give us a chance to start over. Please. I didn't reply. I saved the message not for evidence, but as a reminder. Then I blocked her number. By noon the movers arrived for the last of my personal things, books, clothes, my dad's old chess set, Liam's baby blanket I'd kept even after he grew up, the first prototype motherboard from Rivera Tech that still had my handwritten notes on the back. I kept it small. No furniture. No art. No trophies. Just the pieces that mattered to me, not to the life we'd built on lies. As the truck pulled away, a black SUV rolled up. Javier stepped out, suit crisp, carrying another folder. Update, he said without preamble. Elena filed an emergency injunction this morning to halt the house closing. Judge denied it within 2 hours. Your title was clean, premarital asset, no community property claim. Postnup holds. She's also trying to freeze the trust for Liam. Won't happen. It's irrevocable and beneficiary locked. He handed me an envelope. Restraining order paperwork. We filed against her, Alex, Mia, and Carlos. No contact, no coming within 500 feet of the property before closing. If they show up tomorrow, police will escort them off. I took the envelope. Thank you. Javier studied me. You look lighter. I feel lighter, I admitted. Hurts like hell. But lighter. He nodded. You know this isn't over. She'll drag it out. Depositions. Accusations. She'll try to paint you as the controlling tech bro who punished her for discovering herself. Let her try, I said. I've got 15 years of bank statements, emails, board minutes, and one very talkative ex-employee who's willing to testify about how she diverted company funds to personal accounts for business development trips that never happened. Javier raised an eyebrow. You kept records. Dad taught me, never throw away paperwork. Even the ugly kind. He chuckled. Smart man, your father. Yeah, I said quietly. He was. Javier left. I stood alone in the driveway, watching the sun drop lower. Tomorrow strangers would own this house. The day after, I'd be in a small rented apartment downtown, nothing fancy, just a place to land while I figured out what came next. But tonight? Tonight, I walked back inside, poured another scotch, and opened my laptop, not the work one, the personal one. I started typing. Not code. A letter. To Liam. To myself. To the man I used to be. And maybe, just maybe, to the man I was finally becoming.